Your Honors, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, in order to understand the present, we must look to the past. The story of today's case is the death of a young girl, Sydney Park, who the evidence will show was shot and killed by her neighbor and friend, Jessie Duran, on August 18, 2010. In order to understand the true nature of this death, we must look to over 10 years ago, when Jessie Duran's history of cruelty and violence first emerged. Now, we will show today that Jessie Duran was not born a killer, but how she progressed through her condition of psychopathy, and that the events of August 18th of 2010 were just one more step down the road that Jessie has been traveling since she was a child. The evidence will show that on the morning of the 18th, Jessie Duran went to her friend's house to play, as she did often. However, Jessie did not go to the Parks' home to play that day. Jessie went there for one reason: to shoot a real gun. You will hear today from 3 witnesses who will testify to the relationship of Sydney and Jessie Duran, who will testify to Jessie's condition of psychopathy, and who will show that the details of the event are confirmed. First, you will hear from Dr. Emerson Couples, who will explain to you that Jessie was not an innocent child. She was a violent psychopath with tendencies reaching back to age 5. At the age of 5, Jessie had a fascination with the military. She progressed, she moved on, and later, a few years later, she enjoyed playing games in which she pretended to take a life. Jessie went from third-person video games to first-person shooter games, where she virtually killed on screen. But this wasn't enough. Jessie wanted to see a real gun. Jessie wanted to feel a real gun. Dr. Emerson Couples will go on to show that Jessie received disciplinary notices in school, had violent outbursts, and became progressively more volatile as she grew older. Next, you will hear from Mr. Jules Sebastian, who will confirm details of the event, such as that it was indeed the Parks revolver that shot and killed Sydney Park. He will tell you the distance that the gun was shot from. And lastly, he will tell you one key detail. Sydney Park was turning her head rapidly towards the barrel of the gun at the moment it was fired. Now finally, this morning you will hear from Mr. Andy Park, Sydney Park's father. Andy will testify to the relationship between Jessie and Sydney. He will tell you that Jessie was an aggressive child who controlled the relationship between Sydney and Jessie, and that she manipulated Sydney's decisions. Andy Park will tell of how he did everything he could to keep a safe environment for the children, and yet Jessie could not be stopped. On the morning of August 18, 2010, Jessie Duran and Sydney Park were left alone in the Parks' home. They entered the Parks' bedroom. They went to the safe. They took out the revolver the Parks kept there. And then Jessie loaded the gun using knowledge that she had gained from internet searches. They played. Sydney was playing. Jessie was not. When it was Jessie's turn, Jessie herself will testify that she took the gun, she pointed it at the head of her friend, and she pulled the trigger. Now, as Jessie was a minor child at the time of the incident, Hayden Duran, Jessie's mother, must be held liable for Jessie's actions. We today, as the plaintiff, have one duty: to show that there is just over 50% chance that Jessie Duran intentionally shot and killed her friend Sydney Park. There are 4 parts to this case, jury, and must weigh each of them. That Jessie was indeed in the custody of Hayden Duran. That Jessie committed an act of willful misconduct. That Sydney Park suffered death. And that Jessie's act of willful misconduct was the direct and proximate cause of Sydney's death. Jessie Duran didn't have very many limits, but she pushed the limits that she had until she broke the law. And the Parks deserved justice for their daughter's death, and Hayden Duran must be held liable for Jessie Duran's actions. We are confident that after hearing today's case, we will render for the plaintiff in this case. Thank you.